Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our first Zoom of June. I'm still in shock that we are in June, but time is just flying by and we're just keeping on. So today's mini Zoom, we are going to focus on scrapbooking because I know we don't do that a lot. I tend to do cards and smaller projects because I can show the technique and hope that you can take that idea and translate it to a larger space. But I saw this, I got this idea from Pinterest, as I get many of my ideas from Pinterest, and thought, you know what, let's do a layout for a change. But also to remind, this is now going the opposite way. The technique that I'm going to show you today about using triangles and making pinwheels, as I called them, you could absolutely do it on a card as well. You just have to kind of fuss with the measurements and whether you do a square card, and that's probably what I would do, so I wouldn't have to worry about measurements and triangles fitting properly and everything else. Or you could modify for even a slim line or an A2 card or that kind of thing. So we're going to just take that approach and do a 2-page layout. I'm using the summer line from Cartabella, and it had some pretty green polka dot paper that I'm going to use for my photo mats. And then I also pulled this really pretty pale peach with the polka dots. And I think pretty much all these papers, I'm using the B side. The A side was cut aparts on this one. This darker coral, almost red polka dot has this cute little postage stamp on the back. And you know what? Maybe we will flip things over. We'll have to see. That's the beauty of double-sided paper. And I've got some watermelon paper. And then just, this is coral cream from Basil cardstock. And yeah, my thought was, at minimum, if you sometimes as scrapbookers, we go to an event or we get gifted 6x6 pads, but on a scrapbook layout, what do you do with a 6x6 pad? Because you just don't have the length or the height or however you want to say it. So this is a great way to use up 6x6 pads. Now, having said that, I didn't find a 6x6 pad that called to me, so I just took 12x12 and cut it down. But with this watermelon paper, for example, it has cut aparts as well. So I just strategically planned my cuts so that I could get some cards that I liked. And so we're just going to play with those. And so whether you're using 6x6 or whether you've cut down 6x6 paper, and I seem to be missing a card. I'm sure it will probably in here it'll show up when we need it, because that won't be till the end. So grab your 6x6 squares, whether you've cut them yourself or whether you have, whether you're using a 6x6 pad. And to start with, I'm actually going to put my base pages aside just to start. And I guess I got so excited about crafting, I forgot to remind you, if you have questions, don't hesitate to unmute. If you're watching on replay, please just pause and rewind, and we're going to create this awesome summer layout. Okay, so right now we've got our 6x6s. But if we were to use them, I'm just going to bring this back for a second. If we were going to use them here on our layout as 6x6, it's going to go edge to edge. And I do want some of this background paper coming through. We're also going to cut them into triangles. So I want a little bit of space in between. So I'm actually going to encourage you to cut all of your squares down to 5.5 by 5.5. And let's just do it one page at a time. That way you don't have to cut something you don't necessarily have to do. So I'm taking 2 pieces of this lighter coral, and they're going to go not like this, but they're going to go on this bottom 2 quadrants of the layout. Then I'm going to do 1 watermelon and 1 of the darker pink. So to start with, you need 4 squares, 2 that are the same, 2 that are different. and I'm going to cut them down to 5.5 by 5.5. That also leaves you with some nice little strips for embellishing later on. Okay, so those two are done. And these two are almost done. Okay, so now we have 4 squares that are 5.5 by 5.5. And now we're going to cut them into triangles. So we're just going to cut them on the one diagonal. So once again, I'm just going to line up my points. I don't know if you can see that very well. My top point is along my blade. My bottom point is along my blade. This one I'm not going to stack and do multiples because I just want to make sure I get that diagonal right.
Pregnant, and I didn't know until they were like, oh.
And then I'm going to do my second one. Good morning to everyone who is just tuning in right now. We are cutting down 4 squares that are 5.5 by 5.5, and we're cutting them on the diagonal to make triangles. 2 of those squares are the same. 2 of them are different. And those are now set. Now, if you wanted to do any ink distressing or edge anything so that it pops even that little bit more, you can. I'm not going to do that today, but that's always an option when you're crafting, that you could ink them up to give them that little bit more dimension. Okay, now it's time to put the puzzle together. And I actually have a little sketch for myself to try and help me remember where the triangles go. I'm going to start with my pattern side, and I want one triangle that's going this way. So with the diagonal coming out of the corner, and ultimately that's what we want to do. We want to create a nice diagonal line out here. I'm going to now alternate, and that's going to go there. Then my other watermelon's going here. And my last watermelon's going here. And if you notice, for my first time doing this, or my first time doing this as a class, I've done this layout before. I have chosen paper that is multi-directional, that it doesn't matter what direction it's going in. If I had little people or little animals, it's going to get a little bit convoluted. So you either have to be okay with it, with people going sideways, or maybe even upside down, or just make sure you choose things like polka dots. Even stripes would be fine because they can go in either direction, or just, floral, something really random. And ultimately, this is really just meant to be a background. So you don't want anything that's got too much of a focal point. And now I'm going to fill in with, and this one I want the diagonals. This is how I'll remember how to do it. And I have very deliberately chosen to do this side all the same and in that softer palette, because if I have the impact over here, and when I do the right-hand page, I'm going to put this on the opposite corner, it's going to draw your eye right across the layout. So that is number 1. And this is where now you can play and you can flip things over. So maybe I would flip that over, but I'm not too keen about those postage stamps being sideways. So I'm going to keep it in this nice, it's almost monochromatic because it's all different tones of the same color. And now I can just stick it all down. So I'm just going to choose one piece and stick them down and just kind of go around the horn like so that we get everything nice and even. I'm aiming for about 1/4 of an inch of a border, top and bottom, left, and right. And the best place to start, I think I'm just going to start right here with this watermelon. If you're not sure, then just tack it down with a little bit of tape first so that you can lift it up if you want a little bit of flexibility. So there's number one. There's number two. And remember, this is going to get covered up by your photos, by your embellishments. So if, if your angles are a little bit off, if the spacing is a little bit off, it's not a big deal. And my air conditioning just kicked in. So if any of you ladies have any difficulty hearing me, I will try to be I'll try to put my outside voice on, as we used to say to the kids. Inside voices and outside voices. And now this one. This one's got a little bit of the tape showing. I gotta fold that under. So this is a really great way to use up a 6x6 pad, especially if you don't typically use that size. But with this whole patchwork kind of look, again, you could use up a lot of partial sheets of 12 by 12 that you may have. And there it goes again. And as I said off the top, I'm doing this on a layout today, but this whole same technique of creating triangles and creating a patchwork or pinwheel pattern, you could use on cards, you could use on mini album covers. It's a concept. And you can see as I get around here to my last couple of pieces, my spacing is not even around the pinwheel. But we're going to have those covered up by photos and all kinds of other things. And honestly, if someone's looking that closely at my layout to say, well, your spacing here is skinnier than your spacing here, well, they can go make their own scrapbook. All right, so that's page number one. I'm going to do the exact same thing with page number two. So I need one dark polka dot. I need one watermelon. And I need my two paler colors. So first I have to trim these down to 5.5 by 5.5. And working with squares is easy because you just take a little bit off each side. I don't have to worry about the math because, you know, math. My son, Charlie, on the other hand, loves math. As a kid, I used to get a kick out of him because he would play math games for fun. And that's always a great way to be. We need math people in this world. And we need creative people in this world. So there's room for all of us. And my last two pieces, I'm cutting down to 5.5 by 5.5. Got all these little bits left over that we can use to embellish with. And now to trim them on the diagonal. So lining up my points with the edges of my blade. Everybody doing well, following along so far? Seeing some nodding heads and some thumbs up. That's awesome. Thank you. All right. And now we're going to build our right-hand page. So as I said, I liked having the dark pieces in that top left corner, and I'm going to mirror and reverse that. Let me get my pages straight here. Mirror and reverse that so that it draws your eye across the page. So we'll put those aside for now. I'm going to start with a piece that goes here, 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 and here. So I'm doing I've got my diagonal slicing across here. That's way I make sure I've got my pieces in the right order. It's drawing my eye across, and now I can fill in with my more subtle piece. And once again, do to the right as you have done to the left, in that if you have edged or inked these pieces or done anything to the left side, make sure you do the same thing to the right side. I mean, we could have rounded up some of the corners as well, but I like it looking like this pinwheel here, nice and crisp and pointy. So we'll glue down again. And I'll start here just as I did the last time. And about 1/4 of an inch, 1/4 of an inch. If you want to, you can put your pages side by side to try and line them up that way. I am a self-professed eyeballer. If you prefer rulers and helpful tools with your lines, then go ahead. And there we go. This is also a really great technique if you do have those scraps of paper or little bits of background paper that you want to use, but maybe think it's too busy. This gets you breaking up those pieces a little bit, and when you balance it out with something that's a little bit more subtle or even a solid, I mean, there's no reason why we could not have used a coordinating solid color over here. Or there's some papers out there that look like they've been watercolor painted. This is always where I get caught up, is if I get chatting and I get my triangles going in the wrong way. But always you can look and find your partner on the other side. And there you have it. So again, my last piece is a little bit skinnier in spacing. So that is using those triangles to create those pinwheels. We've got a nice neutral area in the middle. But if you just like these two pieces and you wanted to do it all the way around, you absolutely could. The other thing you can do, and this is fun when you do this kind of quilt work, as I'm going to call it, I could do that. And just look how that changed the layout from having the neutral in the middle to having the neutral on the corners. And you know what, your eye is still drawn across the page, and it's going to help once we get our photos and everything on here. And quite honestly, now that I'm looking at it, I kind of like it this way better. So I'm going to leave it like this. If you're crafting along with me, then go ahead and do whichever orientation You could also do that. It kind of becomes, I almost want to say it's Rubik's Cube, but that's not quite what I mean. It's just, it's like those games that you can put things in different patterns and coordination. But I'm going to leave it like that. Okay, so really that's the main technique that I wanted to show you today. But let's go ahead and finish up this layout and see where it takes us. So I took some of this green polka dotted paper from that same line. Now it does have strawberries on the back, but the blue is introducing an additional color that I really didn't want to get into. And really, where's my fourth? I have lost a journaling card somewhere along the way, but I will find it and I can add it later. So I took my 12 by 12 and I cut it into, which one is which here? I thought I did. Are these three all the size? Yes, okay. So I cut my 12 by 12 into 3 rectangles that are 4 1/4 by 6 1/4. So that is a beautiful mat for a 4 by 6 photo. And then I had some little pieces left over and I thought I would wait to cut those till I see what my layout is going to look like. Because I'm creating without photos, kind of anything goes. But this is kind of a standard way that I start with layouts when I don't have photos. So I'm going to start by putting, I always tend to like to put my title in the top left corner. Don't know why. So maybe I will put a large photo there. And what if I just carry these across? Because I can't put 3 4 by 6s side by side, but I could do something like that. And I could take my journaling cards. I think I'm going to at least mat up my journaling card so that it stands out. And I'm going to take this last piece here. I believe it's already 4 1/4. It is. I'm going to take it down to a 4 1/4 by 4 1/4 square. So that gives me space for a 4 by 4 photo. That's not too bad. I'm going to start here and glue this down. So if I did this right, no, I did not do it right. This is a 3 by 3 card, so I want my paper to be 3 1/4 by 4 1/4. So let's do the 4 1/4 first, then 3 1/4. That way it'll have the same matting as my photos do. And let's stick down my photos. Using my polka dots here to help me line things up. Again, here I'm just trying to make sure I've got a similar width of border around those 2 corners. And already I'm going to change what I was going to do. I'm going to put this one over here. Because once again, that's going to help draw that eye down and out. And let's put the square there. And then maybe I'll take this guy and pop him up here. I don't have a lot of extra green. Nah, it's okay. I'm just gonna leave it. Okay, and now all I need, oh, I didn't stick this guy down. Now, when I put my pieces down, and I don't know if you noticed what I did here, I tried to make sure that I was crossing our gaps. And so when I go to put this guy down, for example, I don't want him lining right up with that gap between all of our squares. I want that extra color to show through. So I'm either going to come over this way and cross that gap that way, or I'm going to come all the way over. I do want it to connect, so I'm going to put it here. I've got a little bit of tape in that top corner, but I should be able to lift it up to tuck my photo underneath. So that way it is crossing those gaps, it's hiding those imperfections, but it's also allowing the background color to pop through. And then last but not least, I do need a bigger title. So I'm going to take this green piece here and I'm going to, yes. Did someone have a question? Okay. All right, if you have a question, don't hesitate to unmute, or you can pop it in the chat if you prefer. I'm going to create a little banner up here to put my title on. And I don't know what that title, I've got Life is Better in the Summer here. Maybe I'll do something like Hot Times or Hot Days. So I want this, I'm going to make this 5.5. You know, I'm going to make it 5 3/4, and that way I can trim it down if I need to. And I've got a little bit of white showing from when I cut that advertising strip off. So I'm just going to make it pretty. I'm going to put a little dovetail in one end. So I'm seeing it going there, and I can bring in some of my little bits as well. And I've got my alphabet stickers. This red is pretty close, and because it's not going to be red on red, it should match quite nicely. So let's just do So Hot. S. And I should have checked to make sure I have all my letters, but it looks like this one I haven't really dug into yet. And I'm just using, even though these are somewhat irregular polka dots, they are pretty much in a line. So I'm using the polka dots to help me line up my letters. Always use those landmarks on your paper. And I have an exclamation mark. And wow, you'd think I had planned this out beforehand, which I did not. It fits perfectly. There we go. So Hot's gonna go up here. Do, do, do. Let's dovetail these little bits. And while I've got the scissors, and okay, tuck that one under. And this one. But really at this point, you know, like I said, I'm just embellishing and using the extra bits that I've got. You can add ephemera, you can add stickers, you could add all kinds of fun things. There we go. Let's cut these tails off. And I am a big proponent, as I said a little bit earlier, of whatever you do to the top, whatever you do to the left, do to the right. So I'm going to finish things off. Now this already has a lot of green on here and I'm going on a lighter area. So I'm going to take my numbers. Do I have enough numbers? I do not. They only give us 1, 2. Oh, but in the smaller numbers, they give us 2 2s. So I'm going to do 2021 down here in the corner. But I'm not going to put it on green because there's already lots of green here. So use my polka dots. 20. $20. 2021. And I'm going to come back to my little scraps. I want a little polka dot one and a watermelon one. I'm going to just trim that and I'm totally eyeballing. And dovetailing both ends this time. And while I have this one here, let's make sure they're a similar size. Okay, let's get rid of all the little bits. And we'll just you know what, now that I see it, I find having 2 of them is a bit heavy. So I'm just going to put the one under. Like so. And I can keep fussing and I might put a little bit more stuff over on this side. There might even be room for another photo or something like that. But essentially, that's what we've got for our Pinwheel summer layout. So thank you so much for joining me today. Just to reiterate, this was the Cardabella summer paper. They've got some really gorgeous patterns in there that you saw the strawberries on the other side of this. As the Strawberry Festival is coming up, that might be fun to do something with. And just a really easy, versatile way to use your 6x6 papers, your scraps of paper, and all of that good stuff. So thank you very much.